Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Qwednesday, the show where I answer your questions with answers on a Wednesday. My name is Rory McLean. And I punch cliches in the jugular. Okay, so for the first time since records began, we have a double whammy where Patrick Oakes and Ravi Singe have asked the same question. So I'm going to kill 2 stones with 1 bird, because I think the 2 stones are 2 halves of 1 stone, and that way the bird can live. Patrick has said, as a very riff-driven player, how do you go about documenting your ideas to look at later on? Video recording, tabs, etc. And also, how do you go about from going from a riff and developing a song from it? Awesome video, very catchy riff. Thank you very much, man. And then Ravi has said pretty much the same. What do you find is the quickest and best way to log riff ideas? iPhone, pen and paper, DAW, just remember them, or carve the tab into your leg with a sharp piece of broken plectrum. Don't carve it into your leg, that's dangerous. What I tend to do, I do several different things, but the most common way that I'll try and remember a riff is literally just to play it over and over again. I do this because it builds up the riff in your muscle memory, so you literally, you're kind of remembering it in your mind and your hand. But it also gives the idea a bit more room to breathe. And I go a little bit overboard with it. I'll literally sit for hours and play the same thing over and, well, maybe not hours, but a long time, and play the same thing over and over again. And you might just hit the wrong string or place your finger on the wrong fret, and it sparks a completely new idea, and that then leads into a new section or something along those lines. So yeah, generally to kind of log a riff and make sure I don't forget it, I'll just play it 1,000,000 times and keep playing it over and over again. So yeah, that's the main way I do it. I mean, when I first started playing, I used to tab everything out. I did actually, the other day I found in one of my cupboards, I found a whole load of papers where I tabbed out all my ideas from when I started. There's hundreds of them. I'm not quite sure why I've still got them, but I do. So yeah, I used to, when I first started out, I tabbed things, probably because I wasn't so used to playing, because I was still actually learning the guitar as well. It was a good way to have like a kind of visual aid, whereas now, because I'm a bit more comfortable, I'll just sit and play it and play it and play it. And again, occasionally I'll record it, I'll get my iPad out. If it's really late at night and I should be sleeping or something, I'll get my iPad out, record it, and then go to sleep, watch the video back the next day, and then play it over and over again. Okay, so in terms of developing a riff into a song or an idea, there's several different ways you could do this, and it'd be kind of hard to summarize. Also as well, I think, while I do have techniques and processes that I use, I try to steer clear of them as much as possible, because I think music should be expression, and if you're starting with your brain rather than your heart, as cheesy as that sounds, the music tends to become a bit stale. Even if the music's good, the way I feel playing music that I know I've written through that kind of process, it doesn't feel as emotive. I'm not as emotionally invested in. That said, there are some cool things that you can do to kind of take a riff and expand it. I use my loop pedal a lot, and that's a really good way of developing an idea. So I'll write my riff, play it around a load of times, and then once I've kind of exhausted all possibility of development for that idea, once I've got it to the point where I'm like, okay, I feel like this is the best it could be, then I'll stick it into my loop pedal and write some parts above or below it or around it. And generally those ideas, like a lead line over the top, if you then separate that out from the original loop, you'll know it will work with that riff. But if you take it out and then write something new under that as well, that can be a really cool way to kind of write new sections and new ideas and parts that are linked to your original one. So in terms of consistency, it should theoretically work flowing from that idea into this one. And if it doesn't, you at least know what point A and point B is, and you just got to get creative and mess around to see how to kind of link the two together. So yeah, loop pedals are really useful for that. Another thing which is kind of cool, like I say, I try not to format the way I do things, and I don't like writing processes. I just rather kind of, I almost think of it as like a meditative state when I'm writing. It's another good reason for repeating riffs while you're trying to learn them, is that you zone out a little bit and kind of stuff happens almost on a subconscious level. But if you're hitting writer's block, or you're just looking for new things to try, or something to get started with, another really useful thing is to break the phrase up into shorter phrases and use one of those as a kind of basis for a new idea. So what I mean by that is, you could take something like this. Say this was idea 1, your main riff. That last bit at the end there, those last 3 notes, that's got a kind of, if you were to loop that round, it's got a bit of a bouncy vibe. So you could play your first riff and then repeat that as the next section. So that would sound like this. I'm messing around here, but something like that, where you take a piece of your original idea and make that the new idea. And you can just, as I did there, you can just mess around, move some of the, stick to the rhythm but move some of the notes around, or stick to the notes but change the rhythm. And that's often can be, I kind of use that to spark a new idea. I don't necessarily use that as like an answer to finding a new riff, but I'll use that just to get my brain flowing and playing something different, but still that's related to my original idea. So yeah, I hope that helps a little bit, and this would be quite a cool idea for another video, I think. So if you guys would like to see that, then let me know. Next up we've got Okianto, who says, "Hey Rory, can you make a video about a weird scale or weird scales? ? Smiley face. Cheers from Indonesia." So this comment was on my weird chords and how to use them, and it'd be really cool to do another similar style video with scales. There's definitely some cool scales that I could compile into a video. The first thing I'd say though to this question is that what makes a scale sound weird is how you use it, more than, there are some scales where intrinsically within the notes of the scale it sounds odd. So like the harmonic minor, you've got the inbuilt kind of Middle Eastern, that just sounds cool no matter what you do. But I think what really makes the scale weird is, like I say, how you use it. And a good way to look for the weirdness in a scale is to look for the dissonance within it. So what I mean by that is, throughout the scale, wherever 2 notes are only a semitone apart, you can use that in quite an interesting way. So if we were to take the D minor scale, for example, you're obviously starting on D, then the second and third, the E and the F, are only a semitone apart. So, and if you stretch those out between the 2 strings, you're already creating a bit of tension there. It sounds kind of more interesting than if you were just to play the 2 notes individually. And then up the scale, obviously the shape on the D string is exactly the same. So So yeah, you could do, I mean, if we were to take the D minor as an example, you could do something like this. Something, I'm messing around here, but you know, you get the idea. You can just use those semitones to create something a bit more interesting. As I've explained in other videos, I think of dissonance in kind of two ways, so you can use it rhythmically or harmonically. So you could use that as like a short stabby kind of effect in amongst like another riff, like a... Or as in that first example, you can kind of stretch out and make a weird chord where you're kind of holding very close notes together. That sort of thing. I mean, again, as I said before, I slightly take for granted the amount that I stretch out over the fret, so you might have to get used to kind of holding these bigger chord shapes in order to do this. But I'd recommend it. It's loads of fun, and it's a really cool way to get kind of the weirdness out of a scale. So hope that helps. So there we go, that was episode 5 of Qwednesdays. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for your questions and comments to answer in this video. I have had a lot of really cool comments which weren't really questions, so I didn't think it was right to put them in this video. But yeah, as always, thank you guys so much for kind of checking stuff out and commenting and just generally being involved, because this is loads of fun. So yeah, I will see you guys soon with more videos. Until then, peace out. I've been Rory.